Welcome. You're listening to the EA View, and this is Kristin Fontana, one of your hosts, and we are back to discuss the archetype of Libra and following your natural fingerprint. This is our team. We've got Stacie Pazura, Rose Marcus, and Deva Green. Welcome back, y'all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Maybe I should give our animal names. This is Chris Stallion. I'm here representing the horse. Stacie, Bill Wolf.
I'm a little owl.
Rose is the owl, and Bunny D, the bunny. So you will definitely be experiencing a little bit of our animal spirits today. I mean, these are our power animals that we've chosen, and maybe by this time, so have you thought about your power animal. And we always like to tap into that spirit when we're doing EA. It is a special part of this work, that daemon spirit. So anyway, we've reached the archetype of Libra, and we're going to discuss not only some of the trends going on currently as we enter, we now are in October. And I was just thinking, this wasn't planned, but there's a big march going on in Washington, D.C. and all over the country today for women's rights. And so I think about Libra in this way in terms of wanting what's fair and what's just, and wanting women to choose what they do with their bodies. And so, wow, how timely is this? We are recording today on October 2nd. So welcome back, gals. I'm looking forward to the show. And in addition to talking about what's going on astrologically, we're going to introduce that in a little bit, some of the transits going on. We have a special fingerprint to discuss, a soul who is clearly following her fingerprint, and just some other fun things today to talk about, to just give you more of that feeling of Libra and how it's expressed and represented in the world. So let's move into our first bit on what we thought about would be perfect reflection of Libra when thinking about unlikely friends, our little animal friends, but unlikely friends. In terms of even how the animals of our world will come together to become connected in some way. Libra wants to feel connected. And with animals, I mean, the bottom line, when we see images, you can go ahead and move to that next slide, that'd be great. When we see images like this, obviously not all here are typically hanging out together. But when we see animals in nature that are connecting, that are just not what you would ever expect, we go back to one of the daemon teachings of the animal spirit and the nature of animals in general, and that they are pure emotion. And what they are attracted to in that other being is their own emotional body and their vulnerability and their purity in essence. And so of course, we always like to talk a little bit about that on our shows to remind everybody just the power of and the presence and the importance and the tenderness that these beings bring. So anybody have thoughts on these images today? Thank you, Stacie, for providing them.
I think it is a natural thing for, beings to be curious about other types of beings, and because that's what Libra is. It's all about, sorry, my dog is whining. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's all about getting to know the diversity of, well, as Wolf used to say it, human nature, but it's really beyond that. The whole world is doing it. And that includes animals. And so it is really kind of an awesome thing to see when two types of species come together and they form like a trusting bond. I don't know, it just kind of reaffirms the connectedness of all of us.
Yeah, it's true. It's Libra's part of that air trine, Gemini being the sign of diversity, and the Aquarius archetype being unique within your own breed or whatever it is being that you are. And there's this natural curiosity for sure. And Libras love to be around a lot of different people in social settings. And so there is that human nature to be curious and to experience more than itself. Absolutely. Rose, you have any thoughts on these little guys?
Well, two things, and I think we're all animal owners, and the love that I have for my dog is so, but I think sometimes this, like these really tender moments, like these really simple moments, like when I'm putting on his harness, he's a little guy, and put on his harness to take him outside. And, like he'll raise his paw so I can do that. And there's this trust, right? And he's getting a bit old now, but when we go down the stairs or up the stairs and he's in my arms, he like reaches out his palms, his front paws, he's got to, hug me, like, it's just the energy that goes between the two of us, and how he trusts me implicitly, and how I'm, reading his signals as well too. And, that's just one, but I have to say another one is kind of little, not quite Libra in terms of the peacefulness of it. But what happened this morning was, my backyard, I have a lot of trees, and my dog woke up barking this morning like crazy. Well, he was responding to the crows outside, and the crows were having something was going wrong, and they were like flying from one tree to the other and the other, and it was like the whole group of them were going here and the whole group of them were going there, and they were angry about something, and my dog was right there like, I'll protect you, I'll do it. So those are just flashes of insight for today.
Yeah, we can see all the archetypes relating in nature every day, and the astrology, that's such a wonderful way to even learn astrology, is to observe nature and just to see how the energies interrelate. Deva, I know that today you have a story, a good unlikely friend story you want to share, so turn on your mic there for us, and then we'd love to hear it. Thanks.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience that for me really reflects the Libra archetype. On a morning walk, I happened to stumble upon 3 kittens who had been abandoned, and you could only hear them by their cries or by their meows. And you could really feel them. They were really communicating, hey, I have a need here. Hey, please help, I'm in need, hey. And so I just stopped and started doing a cat call, and then they perceived that I perceived their need. So there was this total Libra, I'm here to help you, and please, I need your help. And so there was that total exchange, and they pretty much jumped basically into my arms because they knew that there was somebody there that had responded or that had heard, which is a fundamental part of Libra, is hearing and listening, that someone had heard their need. And so as a result of that, they just, okay. And I just walked them down to a nearby animal clinic, and I happened, when I walked in the door, happened to run across somebody who was fostering, who would foster them. And it was amazing too, because all the way down there was pressure from this person or that, like, oh, you should foster, or they're now your responsibility, square to Capricorn, and you need to take care of them. And I have no resources to take care of 3 kittens, but I knew if I did the right thing, I knew that if I took them down to where their needs could be met, that the right thing would happen. And just like bing, bong, boom, there was the right person there. They responded. They said, we'll call to have them picked up. And she didn't put any pressure on me to take care of them. She said, I understand. She said, I understand what they need, and I understand that you're trying to help give them what they need, and just leave them here. And the receptionist, I'll make all the right calls. So there was this teamwork totally happening together on behalf of these 3 kittens. And for me, I'm just like, wow, is this an example of giving, sharing, and inclusion? Like, this is just perfect harmony. The 3 of us saying, here's my part, here's my part, here's my part. And it was incredible, especially having a natal Cancer moon to at the same time not feel a pressure or an expectation to overly care, but to do the appropriate, or to do the to find the appropriate people to help them with their needs. So it was just everything just balanced into a real great teamwork and a real great unity in making sure the 3 kittens got what they needed.
Yeah, and your fifth house Pluto, I love what you said. You did your little cat call. You're like, you're a little wild cat, and you are a wild cat, Deva. So
I couldn't find her at first. So I was like, where are you hiding? And when she heard my cat call,
Aw.
she comes.
there's a wild animal in all of us.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for
Exactly.
sharing that. What were you gonna say? Oh, I thought somebody said something, pardon me. All right, so amazing. And every day, like I said, you can be out in nature, things can be happening, you can be reflecting upon your own chart and what would be a natural response in this situation. So thanks for the astrology on that. That was excellent. All right, let's move to our transit of the month. All right, Rose.
Well, the transit of the month, we're just about into the new moon in Libra that you see on the screen. It's 13 degrees Libra. And this is a very punched up new moon. Both the new moon and the full moon in October are punched up. And that is because of this chart has Mars, which is currently traveling in Libra through until the 30th of October. Adding some extra energy to that new moon in Libra. So that's very dynamic. I can't quite read the rest of the chart here. I apologize for that. But Mars in Libra, cooperation, collaboration, finding the balance. These are all the archetypes of the sign of Libra. And Mars is going to, kind of energize all of that. It's really important to, to initiate. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I've got 5 things in my head at once, but this is a very, very dynamic new moon. New moons are excellent for fresh starts. And so with Mars in Libra, activating the Libra archetype, then it is really about you standing present, and really it energizes the ability to have more, to really have the courage to speak out and to work on the refinement piece of what it means to be in partnership. So, Mars in Libra, they say that it's not well placed in that sign because Mars is a ruling planet of Aries, which is all about me, myself, and I, and Mars in Libra needs to consider we. So this is going to activate opportunities for every one of us to navigate a relationship in some kind of new way, right? And it's going to put the the dynamics, the dilemmas, the choice makings, the observation of the imbalances of relationship right up front. And so if we can observe, then we can perhaps make that adjustment. So Mars in Libra is really, it has to be we, but it also has to be you and me, and you and us, right? So we find a way through all of the relationship conflicts that might come up, right?
Yeah. Hey, Rose, I wanted to share something before you move on to another aspect potentially. I mean, because I think this is already happening with Mars in Libra. It's been in Libra since, maybe you know the date. Is it the end of August?
End of September? Yeah.
Oh no, when did Mars enter Libra?
I don't have the date. I think it was around the 22nd of September. I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
Well,
it's been there for a while. I think it's been there most of September, but so what it's done already is trigger a lot of themes within, what you need in relationship. And I have this client who really wanted to move, and she's kind of admittedly forcing it on her partner, like, we need to move here, you know, and it wasn't down the street, it was like many states away. And he wasn't happy about just being so impulsive about it. He needed more time to think about it. He needed time to think about whether it would be right for them long term. It would cost a lot of money. And she was just, you know, really on her way making this happen. And they got in a couple big arguments, you know, fights were her words. And I warned her about these transits ahead of time, and she was able to share with me what that was about. And she said, you know, Kristin, it was really good that those fights or arguments, heated arguments maybe is what it was, happened, because it really cleared the air. And so this is air energy, and the new moon has not happened, but Mars has been in Libra, Mercury's been in Libra, and is now retrograde. I think it's Mercury that moved actually into Libra the end of August. Anyway, both of those energies have been very prominent in the month of September. We are now October 2nd as this recording is happening. But what this does now for them, now that the air is clear, they're able to talk about both sides and find a place to meet in the middle, which is all about Libra. Like, what do you need? What do you need? Let's find a place to meet in the middle. The new moon can then set the relationship off on new terms. And now that everything has been discussed, I mean, her partner, who clearly in this example is not the one who speaks up and out, and not the real, you know, a more passive kind of person, was able to then, I mean, obviously he was repressing a lot of the emotions, so it came out very heated when it did, but they were able to talk about what they needed. She was able to take a beat and a pause. We've got 6 planets retrograde until, as you can see on this slide, very soon 4 will move direct. So it's an important time to really reflect upon what needs to change in those relationships, and to have those conversations so a healthier version of them can proceed.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was saying about refinement, right? You know, and Mars is going to put it up front, put it up front, put it up front. And that's kind of been the flavor, I think, of what this energy has been about, is confrontation, pullback, assessment, and then collaboration, right? You know, and that's been kind of the process, or at least it's been what I've been feeling over this past week with a batch of different things. And Mars has been very kind of triggering, is what I think. It's like, oh, you know, and you get to this point, Libra, you know, the scales could go this way or could be this way. I could be reactive and I could get angry, or I might be able to look at it and consider, you know, where the other person's coming from, or, you know, what the other options are. That might be someplace where, you know, we could meet in the middle, or, you know, we could, you know, move the relationship or the decision or the choice makings to some kind of new format, new level, you know, and so forth. So that's pretty interesting. And also too, on this new moon, Pluto is stationing, ending its retrograde cycle, been in retrograde since April. Most of the, as you've mentioned, Kristin, and you can see on the screen here, in the month ahead, we've got 4 planets that are ending retrograde. So especially with a planet like Pluto, and when a planet ends retrograde, you know, it is stationing to either, well, stationing to turn direct. And when it's at station, it's slow in its orbit, so it's amplified. And Pluto's in the sign of Capricorn. So that is amplifying, again, what the reality is, and what the parameters are, and what the limits are, and how Pluto is always, you know, transformative or metamorphic, how we can change those limits into something that might be more productive or more in keeping for the now, rather than, you know, the way that we've always, you know, falling back on the old patterns. And additionally, as you mentioned, Mercury's in retrograde, and it's in the sign of Libra. And of course, that's all the imbalances and so forth. But that Mercury is in trine to Jupiter. You know, so it does have the potential to bring the truth to the surface, you know, and to present fresh perspectives and, you know, fresh options for consideration. So, and, you know, with, as Deva had said, Libra is the art of listening. And so if we can just take a step back to have more of a considered response. That's the Libra end of things. Then, of course, Libra is wonderful because we make an improvement, right? We get to a place of where, and, the intention with this is win-win, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that.
Right, like
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
with the Mars and Libra too, in terms of instinctual responses, it can also be breaking into new patterns to where there would have either been a total like, no, I'm not even going to consider this, or not going to listen, not going to take in any other voices if we were being imposed upon, or if we were doing the imposing. There's more of an opportunity to create that win-win, or more of an opportunity to counteract those extremes of the past. Both people taking in each other's sides, as both Kristin and Rose, you were sharing, and coming to a new outcome, or starting a new cycle in terms of, okay, so I won't act, or I won't respond if I feel that it's unjust, or I won't put pressure on myself to do something that I feel is out of balance, or something that I don't feel is creating equality. But what I will do is I'll hear both sides, and we'll try and create a new momentum. We'll try and find an outcome where both sides, or both people's needs are met equally. And I found for myself that going through that balancing, where it's like a theme of counteracting extremes, instead of acting in an older way, or instead of acting in an instinctual way, which would then create that back and forth where lose-lose. This energy's really been pushing me forwards to find a new response.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to mention too that with Jupiter and Mercury both retrograde and forming this beautiful trine, very strong exact on the 3rd and the 4th, the 5th, I mean, right around this time, they will both be forming that same trine the 31st of October, moving direct at the same degree. Crazy. This is a rare thing. So crazy good, actually. So whatever you're changing today, you may really feel the effects and the benefits of by the end of the month.
Yeah, exactly. And it is interesting. Mercury and Jupiter are a planetary pair. They are the rulers of the south and north nodes. So, whatever they're doing is also punched up right now. They're both in retrograde. And interestingly, on the 17th of October, Jupiter ends retrograde, and on the 18th of October, Mercury ends retrograde. So they're right in tandem with one another as well too. And I think that this is the point of what's at the core. At the core, we all want to get along, right? At the core, we all want to do that partnering up, or we all want to do that sharing. We all want that equal representation, but if I break it apart, then we don't have that unison, or we don't have that accord, we don't have that balance, and there's a fallout from that. So it's interesting to have to bring up politics, that this week was a real big deal between China and Canada in terms of a hostage exchange, and it was exactly time that they both got on the planes at the same time, and so on. It was kind of like you give a little, I give a little, and we'll come in the middle so we can both save face, right? So it was interesting. Many examples of exactly what's going on with the stars. But I just think that Mars is, it's an acceleration archetype. And I think that we're able to move through the challenges more quickly because of this new moon.
Excellent. Any thoughts, Stace?
No.
Okay.
You guys got it.
Okay, cool. All right. It is a very big month. I haven't really seen a month like this in a long time, personally. 4 out of the 6 planets moving direct. 3 of them have been retrograde for 5 months, just about. This is a transitional month. It's a big month for your evolution. It's a big month for being honest with yourself, and it's a big month for figuring out a way, figuring out ways and directions for you to feel most in alignment with your calling and your connections on this planet. So make the most of it.
Kristin, may I say one more thing? Mars is part of this new moon. On the 9th of October is the midpoint of the Mercury retrograde cycle, when Mercury retrograde and the sun conjoin. And on that day, Mercury will also be conjunct Mars. On the 18th, when Mercury goes direct, Mars and Jupiter will be in trine. So there's lots of good Mars energy. And of course, the full moon on the 20th is also aligned with Mars square Pluto. Lots of energy to get us moving to another level.
Yeah, we do need a little stress and support. Everything is not rosy and roses in life, as we know. Walk in the park. So in order for us to evolve, of course, we would like a preponderance of more of the positive optimal energy with a little stress to kind of push us forward. That's more ideal. And I think that's what we're going to have this month. There's going to be stress for sure, but there's more strength, there's more support, there's more elevation, there's more promotional energy than there is the stuff that's just pulling you down. So find a way to focus on what you can implement, what you can change, and make the most of these energies, and you'll be happy for it. And you'll be more in balance for it. So there you go. All right, we can move to the next section. We've got our fingerprint now, and our fingerprint of the month is Kate Winslet. She's been very active in many movies, as most of us know, and where they run the gamut of many different themes. But Deva is going to spearhead this initially, and so I hand it to you.
Yeah, from my estimations, I would put Kate Winslet in the first stage individuated. And she grew up in the UK in either lower or to middle, more on the lower end economic status, that her dad was also trying to act. She called him a starving artist type, and her mom was a waitress. So there was limited means, or she grew up pretty much being thrown back on herself and having limited resources. And you can see that with the South Node being in Taurus in the 4th house, that early on, that she learned to rely on herself, or she learned that you had to actualize your own resources in order for pursuing, or in order to achieve North Node being in the 10th, what she felt she was capable of, or her role in the world. That she was also very outspoken and direct in terms of advocating equal roles, or equality, regardless of whether you, not just gender, but that people's life path in general, it's co-equal. That you can impose your path on somebody else, and vice versa, that you essentially honor what feels right for you. And seeing the preponderance in the 9th house, in this birth time, Pluto being in the 9th house as well. So she grew up relying on herself at a very early age, that she had to really make a lot of self-effort to break in to the industry in the way that she did. And she has an intrinsic or very acute sense of justice, equality, and essentially adopted an attitude of very Libra, of live and let live. You don't let anybody else dictate who you should be, and vice versa, which I find very Libra in terms of finding that equal point. And what else struck me too is that she's very outspoken about particularly self-image relative to body type, that when she was younger, she was she had more body fat on her. She was stout, South Node in Taurus, and she was teased very heavily for that. And she lost weight as she got older, but it never left her in terms of the emotional imprint, South Node in Taurus, of being teased, or the other people's perception of her. And that's also Libra too, is how other people's perceive you. And she talks a lot about that. she's also got North Node or Capricorn rising. So in terms of the judgments or what you're expected to be. And so I find based on how she grew up and her environmental imprint that she picked conditions that really triggered or that really threw her back on herself so she could define from within who she's quote unquote supposed to be and whom not. And one of my favorite quotes by her too, in terms of values, kind of going into the paradigm a little bit, is she's also very much broken out of or has making efforts to break out of the traditional or the mainstream values, that she's very much oriented towards simplicity, the simple things, the things that quote unquote money can't buy. And you can see that in her chart with the South Node being in Taurus in the 4th. And from my understanding too, seeing the Pluto in 9th in Libra, she's breaking out of a pattern of emotional compensation. And with Libra, she's been on both sides. She may have been in situations where she was affluent, where she didn't have to worry about money and could pretty much hire anybody to take care of those needs. South Node in the 4th, but this time it's like she's determining from within what her values are. And even though she has the means to do it, she cooks all her meals. She wanted to drive her kids to school. She wanted to have these really natural experiences with them as a way of preserving South Node and Taurus, or as a way of living her truth. And having been on both sides, seeing the Libra choosing what was best for her and essentially not looking back.
Hey, Deva, I just wanted to comment on the South Node in Taurus in the 4th, that something that I read about her. Like one of her greatest luxuries, or one of the things that means the most to her, is that at night is to pull the covers over her head with the kids and like with a flashlight, read them a book. You know, you're just like escaping from everything, but just what she values is that time as a mother with her children. And that just means everything right there. That is like one of her most cherished and favorite times of day.
Right, exactly. And seeing the North Node then being in Scorpio in the 10th, referring back to the natal Pluto being in Libra in the 9th, and polarity point then being Aries in the 3rd house. It's deepening, or it's breaking into her most authentic version of herself, or what she integrating around her role, and deepening herself beyond those types of limited situations, whether she was relying on other people's wealth, whether she was affluent, or whether she, or whether in other lifetimes perhaps being the nanny or being the help. You can see that Venus in Virgo too, and really being able to then communicate in a really straightforward way what she found to be most authentic, or what she found to be most true for herself. Kristin, as you were sharing her most treasured times, and not giving that up, no matter what her role in the world. She could have as much prestige or whatnot, seeing the Saturn being in Leo. But what matters for her at the end of the day is just what Kristin shared. And also speaking to in terms of specifically the 4th, 10th house, defined by your physical appearance, but rather aligning with whether your role in the world really reflects your identity, your individuality, breaking into the individuated state, living an authentic life or not. And really spearheading, or really speaking out against the injustices or the inequalities in those regards.
Hey, Dave, another thought I had too was, we always ask ourselves, why this situation, why this family, why this passion? The why is really important when we're looking at the fingerprints. So why did she come in with that form, that body? Genetically speaking, there are people that just naturally may gain weight more easily, or she was interviewed too, talking about times when she was heavier than others. And she said, it's not like I went home and ate their version of bonbons all night. She said, I think it was just the stress, but I really know that she called that in. She had that form. So, she talks about this word judgment quite a bit. That's why we gave her this Capricorn rising, and we are at an estimated time here. But and she said, it's not that I have a fear of judgment, or I do have a fear of judgment. I know people are judging me. I know that they are. She can feel that, and she felt that judgment at a young age. But I find so fascinating too is that as an actress, you're going to be choosing different roles. And she was in this this movie Ammonite, which I highly recommend. And she had to gain a bunch of weight for that movie, which she's since lost, but she had to gain a bunch of weight. And also her lover in that movie was another woman, and she was 20 years younger with a much younger body. And so she talked about the fact that her body is what it is now. She's had 3 kids. She embraces it. She loves how it felt. She loved how it felt to be naked, even in these sex scenes, these sensual scenes. They were sex scenes, because she was it's like empowering other women to just love your body as it is, And so I feel like one of her roles as an actress is just that, to just love yourself for who you are, be in your body without judgment and embrace it. Embrace all that you are. I mean, look at that Venus and Virgo in the 8th house. And not only that, with Mars and Gemini, she's with a woman in this movie. She is married with children in this life, but she is with a woman in this movie. That was her role. So she's very diverse in the way that she teaches others about how to be more natural, I should say, how to be more natural. All right, so do you want to dive in on that Pluto paradigm, or do you have more about her background?
Oh, no, right. So delving into the Pluto background then, seeing that natal Pluto is in Libra in the 9th house, and the South Node then is in Taurus in the 4th, which refers to the Venus in the 8th. Choosing circumstances or picking circumstances where through necessity, she's either thrown back on herself. I mean, looking at the South Node being in Taurus in the 4th, there's an emphasis on creating situations where either emotional dependencies are removed, or that emotional needs aren't met, and seeing the Virgo, that ruled by Venus and Virgo in the 8th house, intensifying either a crisis that was created through the home life, perhaps either by Kristin, what you were sharing of either not or feeling that judgment, and then having that be a catalyst, or having that be a deepening point for her, seeing the North Node being in Scorpio in the 10th to transmute those limitations, or to overcome or confront her fear of judgment, and allowing herself just to be in her body as it is. And also confronting situations where perhaps there was either expectations from others to be somebody in a general sense, to either live through their values. That can be an aspect of Taurus too, of either adopting the values of the home or family life, or internalizing perhaps a sense of self-lack because she wanted to manifest more of a role that was reflective of herself and accepting herself as is, rather than like as a potential. Let's say, for example, if she attracted situations where she was either the help or she was the affluent with the Libra, it can be both sides of the coin. And at the end of the day, seeing the polarity point being Taurus, or the North Node being Scorpio in the 10th, and the polarity point of Pluto being Aries in the 3rd, confronting those limitations by growing into herself, and by talking a lot about confronting that fear of judgment, and the diversity of teaching through her role, the different ways to do that. I remember a scene that she played, which to me you can really see in the signature too, the Titanic, where she ultimately wants to throw off those lifetimes of luxury or royalty, or even being married into situations where it was more based upon the needs of others or her status. And falling in love more with the Jack Dawson, the one who's in third class. And she confronts those things, and she essentially accepts herself for what her true desires are, or for who she truly is. And you can see that here, whether she was on this side or that, ultimately speaking out and confronting those types of trappings or those types of fears in general.
Hey, Deva, yeah, I mean, you can tell too that she's been traumatized quite a bit from the judgment of others, with Uranus squaring her Saturn. And just, there's that peacemaker quality with all that Libra. Can't we all get it along? Can't this just be about love? But I remember reading a quote about her that she said, "I never judge others until I've walked a mile in their shoes." And so walking the mile in their shoes, can very much be that Mars and Gemini in the sixth, that sixth house of someone feeling not enough. And of course, that judgment piece with Uranus squaring that Saturn. So when there was more to the quote. I can't remember it exactly, but that was the first time I stopped, and I was just really impressed with this interview I'd seen on her. It was a handful of months ago. And so I think that we all want that. None of us wants to be judged harshly. It doesn't feel good. And while judgment's natural to consciousness, it's how we learn. We judge whether we like something or don't like it, that there is natural judgment here, but nobody likes to experience that. And so I just loved her voice on that topic, knowing, because she's been there, clearly. All right. Should we move to our next aspect, or you have a little bit more on that, Deva?
Oh, and that's right. It's like it's refining that more peacemaker energy into that being able to be in that co-equal role, as you were sharing, Kristin, to because of the trauma received from woundings, being able to be naturally compassionate while not imposing. It's like you walk the path that feels most natural for you, period.
And just because you're in a first stage of individuated where we place her doesn't mean you can't be natural at a first stage consensus. Being natural is not about evolution. Being natural is knowing about how to be honest with who you are, authentic. We're all conditioned by our environments, which then affects our abilities to be natural when we feel we will be judged or persecuted for it. But I feel like she's absolutely expressing her just the power of what it means to be natural, or teaching others. Okay, so this is why her fingerprint's so important, teaching others through her roles or through her interviews. That ninth house shows up big there. All right, Stacie, you've got the next one. She was born under a new moon, and she was born on October 5th, and that we have a new moon on October 5th in 2021. So let you take it from here.
Yeah, that's a pretty incredible synchronicity there. I don't know, I guess what I was actually, Deva and Kristin, you've covered a lot of what I was going to speak about with the new moon in her natal chart. Basically this is where a soul, their creative life purpose is, it needs to be given a face. It needs to be given a self-image, an emotional body. And this is an instinctual emergence within her. And in terms of the body type situation, that's one of the striking things that I really found about Kate. Like she's done a few movies, a few films, and I guess there were some, like we've talked about, there were some, racy scenes, some naked scenes, and the producers or whoever, edited the final content, they brushed her up and they removed the sunspots from her face. And she said, no, put them back. And to me, that is a very bold stand for an actress to take, because because that really encompasses Libra. It's putting yourself in another's shoes, as Kristin was talking about a little bit earlier. Don't pretend that you're something that you're not. Be who you are, because in Libra there is this tendency to compare and contrast, and with people who are in film and actresses who are just seem larger than life and beautiful and all the hair and makeup. She didn't want to portray that. I mean, she has taken on roles that have not been glamorous. She was glamorous in Titanic, obviously, but even then, even in that role, you can see that Libra dynamic where, she came from this family of affluence, and here she met someone completely natural, which is that whole Libra thing. The whole point of Libra is to connect with other people with different life experiences and to gain something from their experience through listening. And, it's an incredible story, Titanic. And, and she ended up writing off all of her wealth and all of her affluence for that, and this, of course, is a character. This isn't her herself, but these are the roles that she is attracted to. And, given that her sun is in Libra, it really does kind of refer to her acting career, where she's taking on other, what's the word I want to say? Personas. She's taking on other personas to tell a story. And I'm just really pleased with where she's going with that, because she's really taking it to a natural place. And she's insisting that things be portrayed that are real and natural and relative to her body weight. She's like, I had 3 kids. In fact, I remember her saying, I don't relate to myself. I can't remember exactly what it was, but
she said, I'm not a movie star 45. I'm just 45.
Yeah. And she said, well, and she even said something like, I have a different body now, and I don't relate to my body anymore. I relate to myself as a person. And that is a very Libra thing. And it's a reflection of how she relates to others, which is what feeds her purpose, right? Because she's here to tell a story to other people, to give people a sense of what life can be like, and in a variety of different circumstances. And you don't have to fit the mold. That's another thing about Libra, is that there can be a pressure to try and conform to what it's going to give you positive feedback. And she has received a lot of criticism for her weight, which I think is ridiculous, because I think she's perfect. Like, why would you even be insecure? And the reason is because in film and in print, women are just sort of characterized as something that just isn't always natural.
It doesn't exist in reality, because they're always making them look more perfect with their edits.
Exactly.
It exists.
Exactly. And so this is one of the ways that Kate Winslet is really embracing her fingerprint, is to be that voice and to say, no, take whatever they did to take the sunspots off of her face, put them back. I want people to see the real me, and I want to portray a real person, and that's what I'm here to do. And so hats off to her.
Yeah. Airbrushing, that's the word. I just remembered it. Airbrushing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Also, Stacie, she does have Sun Pluto conjunct right there. So what we also experience in her is that Scorpio, with it. She's not, that's what changes that stellium.
Yeah.
She's not your typical Libra at all. It's Libra with a Scorpio twist.
Yeah, that is a very good point.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, she chose this body, and I know she chose this body, that experience, for a reason. She is got a message for women.
Well, and I mean, even in current events right now, there's a lot of focus right now on Instagram and how it's like hurting the self-image of young women. I mean, young men as well, but there seems to be a preponderance of young women being affected by these images that they see. and so they start feeling inferior, and it's like reducing their self-esteem. And you know, they feel this pressure to be something they're not. And so this is one reason why I really, really appreciate Kate Winslet, is because she's like, no, you don't have to be pretty and perfect and teeny tiny and, you know, in the right poses.
Yeah.
You know, so good for her.
Yeah. I know my daughter, remember she was showing me some posts, and it was something she was looking at, and I said, how'd that girl get so tan? And she said, oh, those are filters, Mom, watch. And she took an image and showed me, you can make this person tan, you can make them thinner, you can brighten their eyes, you can give them mascara, I was like, oh my gosh, let me, you know, and then she showed me what the original image was, which looked nothing like what the ultimate image was. And no wonder these young people are like, who can live up to that, you know?
For sure.
All right, great. Well, thank you for that, Stacie. That was excellent. And Rose, what do you got? What have you have?
Well, I was going to talk about the Uranus. So first of all, let me just kind of reiterate that Pluto in Libra, the whole generation, are meant to redefine what it means to be in relationships. So they're meant to refine the social stereotypes, right? You know, so right off the bat. And she has all those planets in Libra. We have an estimated birth time, but you know, we're kind of going with this. You know, all that Libra in the ninth house, it's going to punch that up bigger, because the ninth house is a Sagittarius house, so that's about authenticity and one's truth, right? You know, so it's going to punch all of that up. The North Node in the sign of Scorpio, its ruler is Uranus, and Uranus is sitting there at 1 degree Scorpio. And if our, you know, her, we've taken this birth time off the information that she gave of, you know, it was afternoon, whatever, lunch, and Mom went around the corner and dropped me and went back to serving dessert, right? You know, so we've got that kind of efficiency piece of that. So we've got that birth time roughly around where it is. But you know, I think that Uranus, the North Node is the, you know, evolutionary forward, and the Uranus, the ruler of the North Node, facilitates. And it's 1 degree Scorpio, you know, so this is a newly forming, you know, programming for her. And that 1 degree Scorpio, Saturn is sitting at 1 degree Leo. So we've got, you know, 2 planets into new dynamics, the things that Deva was saying about, you know, playing both sides of the coin and so forth. With that Uranus in Scorpio, it's a trauma signature, but it's also about confronting. And, you know, it's that Uranus in Scorpio is an intensification of soul desires, right? You know, to go in there, go directly to, you know, not to skirt around, but to go directly into, you know, what her soul desires for her own evolution, to make those kinds of changes. So I really feel that Uranus in Scorpio, setting up environmental conditions in order for her, you know, it's a compelling, you know, dynamic there. And, you know, I think she keeps her private life very private. You know, some of the things that we found out about it, you know, she's had 3 marriages. Each kid is from a different marriage. But, you know, even in terms of her marriage to Sam Menendez ended because he had an affair, right? You know, even setting up the dynamics that are going to create some pain, you know, in order for that self-examination in terms of, you know, not accepting the traditional, you know, stereotypical roles of anything, right? You know, of being in relationships. So she has to confront all of that. It was interesting with the Ammonite in her interview. They said that she and her co-star had choreographed the sex scenes, right? And she said, well, women know what women want, right? You know, so, you know, getting to the point of taking control back and defining it for yourself, you know, that's the polarity point in Aries and so forth. And I just think about the body imaging and so on. And, you know, the fact of, you know, how we get to this point of, you know, I could wish that I looked differently, but, you know, my body is what my body is, right? And I think that that's one kind of vehicle of saying, I just have to reconcile with that. You know, I am 45 and I'm not a skinny mini, you know, whatever. You know, I think that these things, you know, sometimes we set those environmental conditions for all of that. It's very interesting. The two latest projects that she did, and I don't know whether anyone has seen that, Mayor of Easttown. And it was a very, you know, all of the roles that she's played are in breaking all of those stereotypes. And in this particular role, you know, she is absolutely tortured. You know, she's had the death of her son, and, you know, through a overdose, and, you know, she had all these really harsh things happen to her, and she goes through the whole, you know, mini series of being tortured, and she's a you know, detective and so on, and in the end, you know, she almost dies like accomplishing the task. It's, you know, and it's like that, you know, confronting whatever is deep and dark and necessary, and, you know, it's this compelling of continuing until you make the breakthrough, you know. And I see all of that kind of power in that Saturn square Uranus. Saturn is in the position of a 90-degree square for students of astrology out there. And that is at a third quarter level. And at that point, we have like what we call crises in consciousness, right? You know, so that is a reevaluation process and making a change in terms of that consciousness. So I think that all of the roles that she is playing in terms of, you know, some very difficult roles, and some very brutally honest roles, and some roles where, you know, she didn't even like the character, like in The Reader, right? You know, and so forth. You know, I think that there's an incredible amount of bravery in those breakthroughs. So she's being given the necessary circumstances by which she can make the personal breakthroughs, but she's also, through her career, being able to demonstrate that and be a social role model for many, you know, because we get to watch these roles, and they continue to affirm that we have to be our authentic selves, and that we can't, you know, I think that perhaps in her personal life, you know, maybe some of the relationships that she's chosen that we're going to bring some pain to her, exactly, so that she could confront that and move through them, right? You know, so I think that's brilliant. And one other thing I want to say about that Uranus Saturn, then, in terms of, you know, she's got that personal life journey, and, you know, certainly the Cancer on the seventh, and that Saturn in Leo, one of her greatest joys is her children, right? And I think she's very fierce when it comes to loving those children, right? You know, and so forth, which is wonderful. But she's also an advocate written a book on autism, and Uranus rules the brain. And her book is Speaking Back to Autism, which is a really interesting thing. So I think that she's done a lot in terms of social advocacy in her life, and certainly that autism really fits into the Uranus Saturn square as well too, in terms of trying to confront stigmas and stereotypes and making breakthroughs, right? You know, which is what the whole world is looking to do with the autism spectrum, right?
Mhm. Right.
Well, and if I could just add, I mean, that's another kind of testament to how she's using her Libra energy in such a positive way, because to understand an autistic person requires listening, right? It's not
Absolutely.
always language. It's listening to a person's soul. And so for her to really be drawn to that just kind of shows that that's the level she's playing on. She sees something deeper than the exterior, and there's, you know, different levels of communication and different levels of understanding. So
yeah, and not making popular choices in a lot that she did, like right after Titanic, and she could have been stereotyped. but she went in absolutely the wrong direction. And so, she's really being a circuit breaker, breaking the mold. And I don't know, perhaps her mother was pretty perfect in terms of homemaker, from the sounds of that, right back to serving dessert after she was born, but she was.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Right. And it really seems that she's going to live it on her own terms. So hats off to her. Very impressive soul, I think.
What did you mean by she went in the wrong direction after Titanic?
In her own direction, not wrong direction.
I think
she did. Yeah, she didn't choose another role that was going to make her the heroine and make her, Hollywood's golden girl, right?
Yeah. I mean, she's admitted in many interviews that she never wanted to be famous. Like that wasn't her objective.
She's got Scorpio on the midheaven, it's a private person, really, isn't it?
Well, Pluto on the sun too, right?
Yeah.
So, but Pluto on the sun is a mover shaker. And she does have her original Lilith conjunct that sun and Pluto in the 9th house. And when we think about Libra, I know I know Libra well. I have a sibling who's a Libra. I have a mom with a Libra moon. I've obviously working with many people over the last 20 years, and 7th house Plutos. Libras care about what people think typically, and they want to fit in. They want to be a part of the group. And she is not a typical, I should say, a conditioned Libra, in my opinion, because what she cares most about is being honest and being natural, which I love in this chart because she is showing us what a non-conformist, non-traditional Libra looks like. And so that's number one, how she's expressing her original Lilith, and that looking at both sides, looking, wanting, for everybody to, to be beautiful as they are, or unique into themselves. And the other thing I love about this position of her original Lilith is it's in the 9th house. She has an incredible sense of humor, and it does have an ability. She just slides those one-liners in all the time. She said, I often look at women who wear great jeans and high heel shoes and nice little t-shirts wandering around the city. And I think I should make more of an effort. I should look like that. But then I think they can't be happy in those heels. I mean, try walking around in stilettos. I don't know. But I mean, she just, is cracking jokes about it. So here she's comparing herself, right, to these women walking around, and then she realizes that's not what I want. That's crazy. That can't be comfortable. Who wants that, really?
Her favorite shoes are boots, by the way.
Oh yeah, I
No
can
heels,
totally.
boots.
I can totally relate to that.
Observing and defining.
Remember that we always look for rulership. So the ruler for Libra is Venus, and it's in Virgo in the 8th house. So she really does have this Libra, Virgo, Scorpio, combination. We really have to weave in all of those things. And so this is very much a go big or go home life with Pluto on the sun and the original Lilith, making a big impact, hitting it over the fence, even if it hurts, even if it's painful, even if she's judged. This is who I am, and unapologetically so. And I think that's a big part of her message, to be unapologetic about who you are, to embrace who you are, to put it on the big screen, brown spots and all. And I do remember Stacie when she said that, like I just gained the most respect for her when they wanted to airbrush all these things and change her body and change her look, and she refused. She put her foot down, and I'm sure she said, I will not take one step further until you fix that.
Yeah, she said, put it back. That was her words. Put it back. Put those sunspots back.
Yeah, I just love it. So that's my, my original Lilith in Libra, although, Libra too is, again, as we've talked about, her need for justice, for things to be fair, for things to be balanced, and she does that in a beautiful way. So I think we've covered a lot of ground with her. I don't want to go too long. Any last thoughts for you all, and we can move to the next bit. All right, so we do have a movie of the month, Deva, that represents Libra.
Yeah, I picked Gandhi for the movie for Libra because I felt that it really attests to as a wonderful tribute to being able to counteract extremes in a way that brings about exactly what you want, or it brings about the justice that Libra so much is such an underpinning of the archetype that he speaks very passionately about. Us with India, how are we going to bring about change? We don't want to liberate ourselves through the same violence or through the same heartache that we've experienced. Rather, what's the opposite? What's the counteracting force? And there's this little guy in a loincloth scared the British army to high heaven. They didn't know what to do because of the strength of what he was then able to do with that type of balanced energy of not striking a blow. And he had many ways of doing that. He would also speak about to not cooperate. It's got a Scorpio Libra feel to simply not cooperate with what was unjust. Like when the British imposed a tax on salt because they wanted their monies. He said, "Oh, you don't need to obey such a law. Just go get your salt." Very peacefully, go do what you need to do. And what can they do? And so he had these ways of bringing about the win-win in a way that didn't perpetuate a negative cycle. It wasn't blow for counter blow, his famous line, "An eye for an eye will make this world blind." Rather, it was really bringing about with willpower a way to rectify extremes. And one of the most powerful parts of the movie that I saw, Ben Keasley, is when they're asking him about this about how to go about this. Like, what are you saying? So if they come with their guns and they come and they threaten us with our lives, what are you saying? He says, "Well, they can break your bones, they can hurt your body, but please remember, they'll never have your obedience. They will never have your cooperation." And to me, that's one of the strongest messages of Libra is do not cooperate with what's unjust.
He has a strong first house, ninth house opposition. Does he have Mars in Libra? Or was it Pluto in, what was it?
Pluto in the 7th?
Right, Pluto in the 7th, but it's opposing Mars in the 1st, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
He has a Pluto-Mars full phase opposition. And he did bring the British Empire to its knees. And he did it by uniting the will of the people. That's how he did it. And I remember too that in his story that he was on a boat trying to fight for the rights of his people, and others were encouraging him not to land because they said he would be lynched and possibly killed. "Aren't you afraid?" And he said, "No, I must go." And he did land that boat, and he was lynched, and he made it. He survived. And people asked him, "Did you pray for courage?" Or no, did you pray for survival? That's what it was. Did you pray for protection? And he said, "No, I prayed for the courage." That's what it is. The courage to sustain or to survive the ordeal. So he wasn't asking for protection. He just wanted the courage to be able to do what he needed to do as a 90-pound man in a loincloth, right, Deva? He didn't have he wore a loincloth once wearing silk suits as an attorney because he wanted to be just like the people, just like them. Yeah.
All right, and that beautiful story too, that to me seems very Libra. It's in terms of doing what you need to do and counteracting extremes or uniting the will of the people. There's also this beautiful story of through violence, because you can tell that that's also a core theme in the movie too, is how to correct, or it's like how to counteract that. And one of the beautiful stories that I remember is when a man came to him in a type of confession, and he said, "I accidentally killed a child of the opposite of who I thought my enemy was. I'm a Hindu and I accidentally killed a Muslim child, and how to help me correct this? How do I come back into balance with myself?" And he said, "Oh, you go and you go get a Muslim child and you raise him as your own, and you will be brought into balance." Or that's a natural way to rectify those types of imbalances or those inharmonies, right? That can come through that can come through violence. And it created, like what you were saying, it created that way of bringing everyone together, uniting the will of the people, or bringing people who were supposedly on the opposite sides of the fence at times being able to unite their will for a common goal.
Yeah.
In a way that was nonviolent, or in a way that gives you the freedom to do what you need to do. And as you were saying, not to pray for protection, but to pray for courage.
Oh.
Can
Sue
I
just,
say one thing too?
yeah, I just was going to say, Sue just let us know that it's Gandhi's birthday today too.
Oh,
I
Oh
didn't
my
realize that.
goodness. What do we must be just aligned. Go ahead, Stacie.
One thing I was going to say is that, part of why his stance of civil disobedience, well, his example, his demonstrated example of civil disobedience was so effective is because part of Libra is that it learns through, action reaction. It's similar to Aries, right? You're learning from the outside, you've got something inside, and in Libra, you're allowing something to be seen on the outside. And so with that civil disobedience, it allowed, he was standing up to certain principles, certain laws that just weren't just or fair. And it allowed the people who were enforcing those unnatural rules to see, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? We are arresting this man who is completely peaceful, and through that, that objective awareness, they were able to tap into something within themselves that he could have never said in words. So that's kind of his gift. That's kind of
Like being a mirror, right?
Yeah.
right.
Oh, that's a great one. Thanks, you guys. All right, so if you haven't seen this movie, check it out. We do have one meme for the month. The classic fence sitter. I do have a daughter with a few planets in Libra, and I just remember in the early days taking her shopping, clothes for school or something, and she could not decide. There was a reason why the 5 things in front of her would have been just right. So anyway, if you have some of this Libra energy in your chart and you can't make decisions or choose between one thing or the other, then maybe you can relate a little to this image. Rose, I know you have a Libra moon, right?
Oh yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, Libra doesn't want to make a decision that means that you'll miss out on the goods over here. So if we can have all of it all at once, it's really good.
All right. Well, I just have a little piece of inspiration. Before we go there, yeah, here's another great one. So of course, Libras are learning the art of balance, and not to give. The Libra lesson is learning who to give to and who not to, how much to give to and how much not to, and when to give and when not to. And so just really learning how to be more in balance and in partnerships, and choosing people that don't just need you, but can give you what you need to.
And, Libra is about perception as well, too. And sometimes we perceive that things are equal when they're not. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Moving along. So my inspirational message is very brief today, but I like to think about the ruler of the sign being Venus and what chakra that it rules, and it's the heart chakra. And I will share another quote from Kate Winslet. She says, "I would never dream of doing anything that does not make my gut rumble and my heart explode." So do something this month that makes your gut rumble and your heart explode. Today, Venus is in Scorpio, sextiling Pluto, which rules the sign of Scorpio. So it's a time really to push some limits and to do something that feels like it's out of your comfort zone, beyond the Libra balance beam of security, to really take some steps forward. Your heart will thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.
All right, a book that we are all a part of and many other wonderful astrologers as well is available on Amazon. Linda Johnson, who we miss dearly. It was the wonderful editor of this book. A massive amount of time and energy went into it. And so you'll be supporting her spirit and her efforts and the great work of EA. Check it out. And if you are new to EA, there's a wonderful website, schoolof-evolutionaryastrology.com, where you can post questions on the message board or get a hold of the original teachings by Jeffrey Wolf Green, the founder of Evolutionary Astrology. All right, you guys, it was so wonderful to be together. A happy fall in the Northern Hemisphere and what is it, spring in the South. And we will be back with Scorpio, looking at another fingerprint and coming together to share more of this journey together. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.